open-wheel drivers have a tendency to change their numbers every year, reflecting their previous year's standings in the point standings. But in stock car racing, the drivers have adopted numbers. It's become a part of the heritage and the tradition. And just looking at the numbers, it's like a walk down memory lane. Take, for instance, the number 11, Darrell Waltrip's, right? But remember all those victories with Cale Yarborough behind the wheel of a number 11? The number 3, another legendary Junior Johnson number. As a matter of fact, that's why Richard Childress uses the number, because Junior was one of his first favorite race drivers. The number 22, a lot of tradition and history there. Fireball Roberts, then Stan Barrett came to Grand National Stock Car Racing. 22 was Burt Reynolds' football number at Florida State University. Now, of course, Bobby Allison. The number 47, Ron Bouchard, right? But remember Handsome Jack Smith and all the thrills he gave us? 98, Joe Ruttman. However, Johnny Mance also used that number when he won the very first Southern 500 back in 1950. The number 66, Lake Speed brought that to Grand National Stock Car Racing, but we also remember Larry Frank. 27, another Junior Johnson number. N.C. Anderson had it, and of course now Tim Richmond. And how about 7? Well, Kyle Petty is making that number famous for the 7-Eleven stores, but if you squint your eyes real hard, you can almost see the 7A of Bobby Johns racing around the high banks at Daytona. But my favorite number in 1984 is an old legacy from Cotton Owens. Remember the number 6? Well, here's the reason why D.K. Ulrich has 6. Seems as though a few years ago when Tim Richmond came south, the number was destined to be 99. When Richmond left the team, D.K. had a bunch of decals laying around, and he discovered that if you turned the number upside down and took half of that upside down 9, it was number 6. He didn't have to buy new decals, and he inherited the number 6.
D.K. Ulrich is still on the racetrack in competition, and we would like to wish him a happy birthday. D.K. will be celebrating his 40th birthday tomorrow. Enoch Staley, the owner of this racetrack, is having a birthday today. So happy birthday to both of those individuals. Well, there were some great names that jog your memory in that piece, Benny.
There was some great names. I like that car, that number 98, because that's the number I used for years and years when I first started racing, and it's always kind of held a special place for me.
I suppose the one that will mean most to you was 72, right?
Probably, yeah. 9 years in Grand National Racing, number 72.
That's right. There's your leader, Ricky Rudd, in the Northwestern Bank 400 from here at North Wilkesboro. As we run down for you the top 5 at this point with 36 laps to go. Terry Labonte is second, Tim Richmond third, Harry Gant fourth, and Kyle Petty is in 5th position. The Trans-South 500 from Darlington, South Carolina, the next race on the schedule, and we'll be there live next Sunday. We'll be back in North Wilkesboro in a moment. What a story as far as the early part of the Grand National season is concerned. Ricky Rudd leading this race has already a victory in his pocket, having won at Richmond, 7th at Daytona, 7th at Rockingham, 8th at Atlanta, and 6th in Bristol. But we have to remember that tremendous crash, and we have a spin back in the backstretch, or actually in turn number 2. It's Phil Parsons. Number 66 of Phil on the inside of the track. Now he gets it going again and is moving, but this does bring out a yellow, and the question is, are they going to come in? I'm sure they will, to change tires and get fresh rubber on for the last 26 laps of the race.
Oh, this is Ricky Rudd is dying right now, Bob, because he felt like he had the race in his pocket. Now he's got to come in and put on 4 tires, and they got to get the stagger or the size exactly right, or he's in a lot of trouble.
All right, now it's also going to be interesting as far as the work of the crew chiefs are concerned, because everybody's going to come in at the same time, and it really depends on who gets out first as to where they're going to fall into position on the racetrack. Let's go down to Dick, who's in the Ricky Rudd pit. Dick?
I sure am, and there's a lot of activity going on here. They're preparing for a 4-tire change. Again, no chassis adjustment, but right behind Ricky Rudd is the 44 Labonte. They have already changed the right side tires on Labonte's car, and they adjusted the chassis on the Labonte car. Now, on Rudd's car, they're working to get the left wheels off and put on new tires. These are brand new tires going on the left side, not scuffs. Rudd watching. Rudd peeking out of the pits. Labonte is still in the pits. Here goes Labonte.
Harry Gant wins the race. Harry Gant wins the race out of the pits.
Tim Richmond really beat everybody, and Kyle Petty also got out before Terry Labonte or Ricky Rudd. So this does shuffle the standings, and now Rudd is going to have to work for a win.
Petty's coming back into pits. He probably only changed the 2 tires.
But Harry Gant is going to, or Tim Richmond and Harry Gant both are going to stay out there, so they're going to be first and second, and Rudd is going to be third with Labonte fourth. This sets up an exciting finish.
It really, because Harry Gant, the Skull Bandit, was really coming on just before this caution flag came out.
May very well have been the fastest car on the racetrack before the yellow, and now we're going to see how things go when the green flag comes out in just a couple of laps. And we'll be back. Richmond is the leader with Harry Gant second, Ricky Rudd third, Terry Labonte fourth, and Kyle Petty fifth. We only have 21 laps to go, and Tim Richmond is in the lead. Harry Gant is behind him, although they are separated by Darrell Waltrip, who is several laps down.
Darrell's trying to get one of those laps back. That's one reason he's staying in there.
And Harry Gant looks to the inside now of Darrell Waltrip in turn number 1. He runs side by side with Waltrip and now makes the pass coming out of turn number 2 onto the backstretch. Let's go down to Larry Newber, who's with Tim Brewer.
Tim, the pit stop did it. You guys came out in the lead.
It's been a long day catching up. We finally got where we want to be, and I guess now it's all up to Richmond.
Now, you did change all 4 tires. Let's look on the fuel you wanted. Did you fill up the tank or did you hold back a little bit?
Hey, you know, we just had a good stop. Happened to be lucky enough to beat him on the field.
Right now, is Tim saying anything? Does it look like he has him covered?
No, he ain't said he had him covered. You know, he knows the business. It's tough to beat anybody. You know, we're in a good situation right now. You know, 30 laps for Richmond.
Well, Bob and Benny, the other interesting story is Harry Gant. Remember that Harry Gant decided to not go faster during qualifying because he thought he had the right race set up, and it looks like they made the right decision.
Well, it looks like they may have on the racetrack. Ricky Rudd has dropped another position because there was a lot of traffic going into turn number 1 just 2 laps ago, and Terry Labonte moved to the inside, and there was a lot of traffic trying to squeeze into a single lane there at the end of the straightaway, and you were watching it, Benny.
I really was, and I thought they was. I keep my eyes off of it. It was unbelievable because I felt like there was going to be a crash down in turn 1.
Here's the way it's set up as they came down the straightaway. Look at Terry Labonte to the inside of Ron Bouchard.
He almost went in the inside guardrail. Then he touched Bouchard. He runs into Rudd, and they all get him straightened back out.
Amazing.
Great job.
Anyway, Terry Labonte now is in third with Ricky Rudd in 4th place. The lead continues to be held by Tim Richmond. Harry Gant second, Labonte third, and Ricky Rudd is 4th. 14 laps remain out of this 400-lap race.
Harry Gant doesn't seem to be gaining too much on Tim Richmond.
And Ricky Rudd is certainly not letting Terry Labonte get very far ahead of him. Darrell Waltrip is running ahead of these two at the end of the backstretch in turn number 3. But Terry Labonte able to maintain 3rd place at this time. Rudd trying to find an opportunity to get around, but cannot find it at this point. It's been a strong race for Ricky Rudd, but because he got out in 4th place after those pit stops, he has his work cut out for him to pass the 3 cars ahead of him and take home the win here this afternoon.
I really didn't see anything wrong with his pit stop either. I didn't see any unusual trouble that the crew had. Maybe the other team was just a little better.
Well, one thing that you might want to consider is the fact that Tim Richmond's pit is way down at the end of pit road. Does that have anything to do with it?
It is an advantage, particularly, you know, you can come in the pits and you come in a little bit harder, and you don't have such a distance to go when you leave the pits to get back on the racetrack. So you're right, Bob. That's a decided advantage. He's underneath, Rudd is underneath Labonte. He takes a spot coming off the 2nd corner. We don't have it on, but he has taken 3rd spot away.
There is the leader, Tim Richmond, out of turn number 4. Continuing to lead this 400-lap race on the .625-mile High Bank North Wilkesboro, North Carolina Speedway. There is Ricky Rudd, and he has been able to pass Terry Labonte to move back into 3rd position. We have less than 10 laps to go. Richmond showing the way in the late stages this year's best finish was 5th last weekend at Bristol. He was also 7th in the 400 lapper at Richmond on the short track. On the super speedways this year, it has not been a particularly successful year so far. He was 33rd at Daytona, 27th at Rockingham, and 34th at Atlanta. But you know, you really got to feel sorry for Ricky Rudd, who was so strong throughout most of this race, but when that last yellow flag came out and he made what appeared to be a good pit stop, but just got out behind Richmond and Gant and hasn't been able to close in the distance.
No, the unusual thing is that they have put some distance on Ricky Rudd. The dominance that he's shown all afternoon has vanished here with 20 laps to go.
Tim Richmond off of turn number 4, just past Buddy Arrington in car number 67. Richmond running in turn number 1 now, moving to the low side of the racetrack, now moving high out of turn number 2, going down the backstretch. The car ahead of him is the number 17, driven by Clark Dwyer, who started 22nd in the Hesco exhaust Pontiac. Clark, one of the contenders for Rookie of the Year. Richmond able to pass him easily in turn number 1. Some good driving display down in turn number 1 again by Dale Earnhardt and Neil Bonnet as they bump.
Well, we talked about the North Wilkesboro rub early on in the show, and we've seen evidence of it, lots of evidence of it. You know, if Richmond goes on and wins this race, he is the 10th different winner in a row, which is a new record. It started with Darrell Waltrip here. No, it started with Richard Petty at Charlotte last year in the Miller 500. And all 10 different races, 10 different winners. That shows what parity we have in NASCAR today.
Richmond takes the white flag. He is 1 lap from victory at North Wilkesboro. D.K. Ulrich is the car that he is passing in turn number 2. Down the backstretch now, half a lap from victory, and it is going to be a victory unless things go wrong in the last half lap for Tim Richmond. Out of turn number 4 onto the main straightaway, Tim Richmond wins the Northwestern Bank 400. Harry Gant finishes 2nd, Ricky Rudd is 3rd, and 4th is Terry Labonte. Look at the crew celebration in the pit area. Tim Brewer and the others are celebrating Tim Richmond's win here today in the old Milwaukee Pontiac. Tim Richmond saluting the crowd as he takes his victory lap. He'll be pulling into the winner's circle, victory lane, here at North Wilkesboro in just a couple of minutes, and Dick Berggren will be there to talk with him.
I'll tell you one place there is no joy. That's Ricky Rudd's pit.
That's for sure, and you really got to feel sorry for the Bud Moore crew because Ricky was so strong and throughout most of this race, as a matter of fact. Well, this is the 4th win for Tim Richmond in Winston Cup Grand National competition. His first this year, of course. And there is Darrell Waltrip. And the dominance that he has displayed here at North Wilkesboro is over. He had won the last 5 races, but a 6th victory eludes him. We'll be back to talk with the winner, Tim Richmond, after this. Tim Richmond has won the Northwestern Bank 400 here at North Wilkesboro. Just down the road, about 70 miles to the west of us, is Greensboro, North Carolina. That's where the Greater Greensboro Open Golf Tournament is being held, and we're going to be joining live coverage of that event in just a few moments. Richmond's car is now being weighed by the NASCAR officials, so he has not yet made his way to victory lane. But there is Tim Richmond, who has the helmet off and has a big smile on his face.
Yeah, I know. I scratched some
Ashland, Ohio, originally. We'll be getting out of the car here in just a few minutes, and we'll be going down to Larry Hoover. Let's do that right now. Here's Larry.
Tim, you know, victories are always important, but I really had the feeling that a win here today was really important to your team. It's been a rough year.
It was definitely important. I mean, we've had problems, all year this year, and we had problems all week here. We didn't qualify, but we started 17th, and I tell you, the guys worked hard all this past week prior to coming here, and we still aren't right, but, they made adjustments throughout the race, and, you know, the crew did it. They put me out first on that last stop, and, you know, that gave me the opportunity to drive the race that I wanted to drive.
What'd you do? Threaten them before you came in for that last stop? They were like grease lightning.
No, they know how I come in on my last stop, and it's not as sane as some people would like to see, but and they got me out first, and I want to thank Joe Ruttman. We had his tires on at the end. We ran out of tires, and he loaned his tires to go with, and, you know, it's like
Jim, lots of people waiting for you in victory lane. You got one last comment?
Yeah, like old Milwaukee says, it doesn't get any better than this.
Okay, Tim Richmond's got to get to victory lane. That's win number 4 for this guy, his career, Grand National competition.
It wasn't easy, though, because, again, if it weren't for those last series of pit stops that everybody made when Phil Parsons spun over in turn number 2, it could have been a different outcome. In any case, we'll be back to review and to talk more about this Northwestern Bank 400 here today, which has been won by Tim Richmond. We'll return after these messages.
Hey, Mom and Dad. Hey, who's your Beatles with send money?
Back at North Wilkesboro, and the celebration in Victory Lane going on around the car driven by Tim Richmond, who has won here this afternoon. We review the top 10 for you, and this is, of course, an unofficial finish. Second was Harry Gant. Third, Ricky Rudd. Fourth was Terry Labonte, and fifth was Kyle Petty. Those 5 cars on the lead lap at the drop of the checkered flag. In 6th place was Darrell Waltrip. 7th, Ron Bouchard. 8th, Dale Earnhardt. 9th was Neil Bonnet, and 10th was Bill Elliott. And we'll be back with some final comments, and don't forget to stay tuned for the Greater Greensboro Open coming up in just a moment. We'll be right back here at North Wilkesboro. And so the 6th stop on the Winston Cup Tour for 1984 has come to a conclusion with Tim Richmond in victory lane. And now we move on to the faster Darlington racetrack, where we'll have live coverage of the Trans-South 500 next weekend. And Benny Parsons, who joined us in the broadcast booth here this weekend, will be on the racetrack next weekend. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. Let's go right now to Larry Newber, who's with Ricky Rudd.
There were times in your career when 3rd place would have been great, but today it hurts bad, doesn't it?
Well, it's a shame to lose a race that way. You know, we dominated things all day. Bud Moore had that Wrangler Ford hooked up all day, and track position just killed us on that last restart. Richmond and Gant just took on 2 tires. We took on 4, and you know, we gave up track position. By the time I got by my old teammate, Buddy, and had to knock him out of the way, but the race was over with.
Ricky, you're running up front every week. It's got to feel just great here in 1984.
Well, it is. You know, like I say, it's tough to lose one this way, especially when we run so good. But, you know, Bud and the entire crew did a super job. And, you know, we're going to win our share. If the car keeps running like it is, I think we got a few more coming.
Win his share, and you got to consider this guy as a champion prospect for 1984.
And if you look real close, you can still see some blue underneath the eyes of Ricky Rudd. Still evidence of that terrible accident down at Daytona. Benny, your final comments.
It was an unbelievable turn of events, Bob. I just could not believe that the turn of events with 20, 30 laps to go. My congratulations to Tim Richmond, because as bad as he was in the middle of the race, and we commented on it, he was all over the racetrack. He persevered. He stayed out there. He worked hard at it. The crew adjusted, and victory was his.
And we'll look for you on the racetrack and hopefully have a radio hookup with you next week at Darlington.
Yes.
Well, the Northwestern Bank 400 is history, as we indicated, and Tim Richmond is the winner of the race. And the Northwestern Bank 400 has been brought to you